To see Peter and to hear Peter this evening talk about the wonderful special exhibition that we have here from Junk to Jewels, the things that Veronicans value. Many of you know Peter. And I see some friends in the crowd, and also his father is here to join us, so thank you very much for coming, Mr. Lee. Peter has an extensive background, as you know, in the arts. He is a consultant on many projects, most recently on the Baba House. Peter has worked with the Veronica Museum, of course, for the special exhibition that we have. If you have not had a chance to see it, do go upstairs to the special gallery, because it's very interesting to see this type of show which involves the community, which Peter grew up with and who knows so many people here, and to see sort of behind the scenes all these wonderful artifacts on display. So without further ado, I know you came here to hear Peter talk about the special exhibition. Please welcome Peter Lee to the Veronica Museum.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Babas and Onyas and friends. I'd like to thank the Peranakan Museum and Kenson Kwok and Tan Hui Sim for giving me this challenge, this huge challenge, and this opportunity to put this small exhibition together. It was a project that was confirmed only in early January, so it was quite exciting and at the same time so fraught with anxiety. The brief was to create a show, a community show that gave the voice of the voices of the Peranakan community. And the challenge for me was how to present the same kind of material in a different way. That was really quite a big challenge, because the material is all the same as what you see in the permanent collection. So I found that was quite one of the main challenges. The other was to sort of incorporate some of my own personal concerns and interests in Peranakan material culture. Firstly, I'm one of my main focuses is on the things that Peranakans, the difference, what we should really define as what is Peranakan, or what is the reason behind calling something Peranakan. And I think it's something that we don't really have an answer to. I think the Peranakan Museum presents a certain point of view, but I think it's still open, and it's an interesting process to refine what this idea is. I see that firstly there are things that the Peranakans created, there are things that they commissioned, there are also things they acquired. Then we have the collectors and curators who have acquired and catalogued things and call them Peranakan. We also have things that Peranakans themselves consider Peranakan. So I think there's so many perspectives on this whole subject. Personally I prefer the approach to call the objects things that created or whatever for the Peranakan market, rather than call it a Peranakan object. There is a big danger in all the material we see to say, oh, this is Peranakan. I mean, just because they were used by Peranakans. I mean, in 100 years' time, would a Mercedes-Benz used in a Chinese wedding be called a Peranakan object as well? So, I think these are really important questions, and we shouldn't rush to sort of ascribe Peranakan sort of label to every object we see, or that may be associated or were used by the Peranakans. So I thought to show this by juxtaposing all these issues and throw them all together and let everyone come to their own conclusions. One of the main things I wanted to present were the voices of the Peranakans. So every object has a story, and every story is as important as the other. So And this idea of the story sort of democratizes all the objects. So it doesn't matter whether they're valuable or they're very ordinary or they're made here or whatever. It's the story and why they were kept that's important. I wanted to also combine objects that were luxurious and also very simple, and to throw in things that were local and global. The experience of doing the exhibition was really quite amazing for me, considering the time frame. Well, firstly, because of the deadlines, I apologize that a lot of the objects or the lenders, I mean, there's a sort of nepotistic angle to it. I mean, the community is small, but a lot of them are relatives or friends or immediate contacts that I had. I regretted this almost daily for the last 4 months. Like, why did I do this? I mean, it's so stressful to coordinate 30 lenders and 30 stories, and so many stories. But anyway, it was a challenge, and when everything was up, I think the great joy in seeing everybody read the captions and sort of connect to the objects in their own ways and form their own conclusions, I think, which is what I wanted. Also, there were a lot of objects that could not be shown or were sort of withdrawn at the last minute, and that was also an interesting process. So many unresolved family issues, things that certain members couldn't reveal that they had, and sadly, I mean, some of the most wonderful objects I could not get in the end. I couldn't even sneak a photograph to show you today. I was also invited to so many homes. We just sat down on the floor with relatives, and everybody would start speaking at once, and I would try and record as much as I could. And it was amazing to be invited to 30 families, and that was really the wonderful experience. And it was 30 movies played out all at once, and trying to make it all make sense. I won't be able to show you everything here today, but I was really not trying to repeat what you would see. So I'm trying to show you what I could not include. And of course I can't show you every object. There are wonderful things from the Wee Kim Wee family, the Goh Keng Swee family, Alvin Yap's family, and Shirley Yap as well. So from very simple objects to objects from families of Singapore and Malaysian statesmen. So what I have is just a selection, and fresh photographs to sort of excite your interest. I start with this photograph. This is possibly one of the earliest photograph of a Peranakan interior, or of Peranakans, taken in the early 1860s by a photographer called August Sattler. I'm starting with this picture because really, when we look at what Peranakans had, or what we considered Peranakan, and if you look at this, it's quite interesting. This is the early 1860s. Tan Kim Seng was still alive. I think he died in 1868. I'm not sure which family this is, but this is the ancestral hall of a Peranakan house. You see that the man on the right is seated on a colonial chair. The furniture tends to be quite staid colonial, actually. The back, you see the standard Chinese ancestral altar. On the table behind the little girl in the center, there's a sort of what looks like a Canton export vase. Nothing you would say that is out of, the altar tables behind are typical of Hokkien altar tables of that period. You see, interestingly, typical sort of lamp of that period, and behind that there's also this funny thing right at the top. It's sort of this brass lamp that you don't see anymore. But basically, I think what we understand is Peranakan, I think, evolved throughout the time. And in the 1850s, I think people just had things that they that you could get from that was loaded off the ships. So a lot of Chinese export